Hello everybody, good morning and welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge and this is your latest Manchester United news as we talk Erik ten Hag's shock dressing room leaders. This came from James Ducker at the weekend in The Telegraph. I completely missed it. I think it's a very interesting article. We've also got Gary Neville talking about one of those leaders having a short-lived career at Manchester United under Erik ten Hag and potentially on their way out very soon. And another new United signing who let his manager down at the weekend and basically has been accused of not following team orders. Tank in the chat says we don't actually have any leaders at Manchester United. That's why we have so many problems. And I'm not going to name them because it's not very fair in the chat, saying that is this not an indication that Ten Hag might be a little bit too naive for this job? No. You know what I think about Ten Hag. I think he's the man. But Tank also says he personally benched Bruno for 3 games. But no, I think Ten Hag is the man. I think it's very early days and things might have to get worse to get better. That's sometimes what it's like. We cannot judge our rebuild at Manchester United comparable to Liverpool with Klopp or Manchester City with Pep. Man City's rebuild with Pep wasn't really a rebuild. They'd won titles. He had an open checkbook and he had a structure above him that would basically back anything he wanted. Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool came in with a fantastic CV for developing players and a clear vision on how he wanted to rebuild Liverpool. And they supported him, maybe not with an open checkbook, but they did support him. At Manchester United, you've got somebody who could be a Pep Guardiola or a Jurgen Klopp, but he certainly hasn't got an open checkbook and he certainly hasn't got the structure above him that will let him do what he wants to do. So very different and therefore could take a lot longer. So there will be dips, there will be peaks, there will be troughs. But let's get straight into this headline. This is coming from The Telegraph and it's coming from James Ducker, who is, I think he's very good in relation to Manchester United news. So let's read this out. Now, I just want to say this was before the Manchester Derby this came out. I missed it. So this is a story that came out before the Manchester Derby, which I don't know whether that makes it better or worse because you saw what happened on the pitch in the Manchester Derby and there was no leadership. But effectively, Erik ten Hag is believed to have named a 4-headed leadership group to run his dressing room comprising of Bruno Fernandes, England international Harry Maguire, club veteran David De Gea and backup stopper Tom Heaton to lead the squad by example. Now, before we get in the finer detail of that, I also want to say that one of those players, Gary Neville, came out in his podcast on Sunday night and said that one of those players will have a very short-lived career at Manchester United, and it's not Tom Heaton. So we'll be talking about that in a bit. And also this player that basically disobeyed Ten Hag's instructions at the weekend. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But I am doing a watch-along tonight, Milan-Chelsea, so we'll be live at 7 o'clock on here. And I must just say the reason I'm early this morning is because Erik ten Hag's press conference is at 11:30. And I think it's going to be a good one because I think he's going to get a lot of questions asked about a terrible performance at the weekend. I wouldn't normally be excited about a press conference for playing a Europa League game anyway, but I think the questioning he's going to get from the weekend about Ronaldo, Casemiro, the performance, etc. really interested. So we'll be live just after 11:30. So we're a little bit early today because I thought 10 till 11:30 is a bit close. So let's do it at 9:30. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe. Let's get into that below. So look, I feel that... Look, what do you think about that? You have to talk about it. I mean, my initial reaction is this, that Tank said it very well. We don't actually have leaders at Manchester United. And I know Ronaldo wasn't on the pitch, Casemiro wasn't on the pitch. I mean, Varane went off injured at 1-0, really. I mean, he was injured at 1-0, so he wasn't really on the pitch. Maguire wasn't on the pitch, as I've mentioned. So you can't throw it to everybody for Sunday, but one of the big things that strikes me about Man United is they've got no leadership. Varane goes off injured for that corner and nobody realises that Eriksen is marking Haaland. Nobody says, McTominay, get on Haaland whilst Varane's off injured. There's no leadership there. So whether Bruno's the captain or David De Gea's a senior player or Martinez is, vocal or just anybody on that pitch, Rashford, anybody has got to say he's the best player in the world at the moment. Somebody big mark him. So we don't have any leadership. We have a tendency when we go behind in games to not just lose but get hammered. That shows a lack of leadership. So I don't really care who these people are that Ten Hag has identified. The bottom line is we don't have the people to do it. I think when you look at... And also, as well, one of the big problems, and I replied to this morning, one of the big things, I haven't had a haircut, Makish. I think it's just the colour of this hoodie I'm wearing. If you want to get one of these hoodies, by the way, Shopify, United Stand, links in the description. We ship worldwide. I haven't worn the white one for a long time, but it's very nice. And we do the white one in different designs as well. I think you can get the Ten Hag one in white as well. So look, I look at this leadership thing. Let the manager manage. If the manager wants to go with Heaton, Maguire, Bruno and De Gea, let the manager manage. I think there's issues with going those players, which I'll talk about in a minute. Let the manager do what the manager wants to do. If he gets sacked in the future, I want him to be sacked and say, it was my fault. Everything happened. I chose to do it, right? I don't want, he was forced to do this. He was forced to do that. If Ten Hag thinks that they're the leaders in the dressing room, let them be the leaders in the dressing room. But obviously, I don't spend time on the training ground. I don't spend time in the dressing room. But even as an outsider, I would say, Maguire's never won anything. I mean, he got relegated a couple of weeks ago for England again. He's had more relegations than trophies. Bruno's never really won anything. I don't think he won a league title in Portugal. Tom Heaton's, I mean, look, he doesn't even play for us. And David De Gea hasn't won a title in nearly a decade. So you've got people in the dressing room like Varane, Ronaldo, Casemiro, even people like Anthony and Martinez have won league titles. So would you not want to use those players who've actually won things? And the reason I think that's important, and none of those players might not want it. You know, Ronaldo probably wants to go. Varane might be quite quiet. But you can have a situation, like if you look at Messi going to PSG, or Neymar going to PSG, or Mbappe at PSG, all very big personalities in the world of football. You know, mass sponsor deals coming out their email box. You know, they're massive superstars. Who is the captain of PSG? I don't actually know who the captain is at PSG at the moment. I think it's Marquinhos. But Messi goes to PSG. Marquinhos is the captain because he's been at the club, he's won titles, and he knows the club. So Messi has to listen to Marquinhos. At Juventus, when Ronaldo went there, you've got people like, and you don't have to be the captain, you can be a dressing room leader. You've got people like Chiellini, who has won titles and knows that club really well. So Ronaldo can come in as the superstar who's won loads of Champions Leagues. But Chiellini can be like, look, I know this club, I've won with this club, this is my club, I'm one of the leaders in this dressing room. So it can work if Casemiro, Varane, Eriksen, Martinez, Anthony came into Manchester United's dressing room and you've got Bruno Fernandes and Harry Maguire who've won a title last year, then I think they can lead that dressing room. I think the problem is, and I'm not individualising this against anybody, the problem Manchester United have got is, and we saw it at the weekend and we saw it against Brentford and we saw it last year, week after week, none of these players know how to win. They just don't know. They've got no experience of it. They don't know whether to do my Russell Crowe speech in the dressing room or give everyone a hug or do the big hug on the halfway line. They don't know what works because they've never done it. That is United's biggest problem, and that is Ten Hag's biggest problem. This team doesn't know how to win. They don't even know how to win a Carabao Cup. They don't know how to win. So picking your leaders in that dressing room is ridiculously hard because if I'm Casemiro and I've got Bruno, Maguire, De Gea telling me what to do, I'm probably thinking, yeah, I remember what it was like at Madrid. This lot don't know what they're on about. Even if he wants to listen to them. So it's very, very difficult. But that's what happens at ground zero. That's what happens when you are starting again. He might have picked the wrong leaders. He might have picked the right leaders. The article also goes on to say that Eriksen, Varane, Casemiro are all leaders. They're just quite quiet and well respected. So it doesn't really matter to me who these dressing room leaders are. If anything, it could be, why is Maguire? Why is it Bruno? Why is it De Gea? And the agenda continues. I'm not really bothered about who the dressing room leaders are. I think the bigger point is, we don't have any. And he is starting from the very bottom. And some of these players may not be the right leaders for Manchester United, but who is? It's a reflection about where we are and the problems we have at Manchester United, that it's not a quick fix. I look at Man City at the weekend. Phil Foden's a leader. Erling Haaland's a leader. Kevin De Bruyne is definitely a leader. Gundogan is a leader. Bernardo Silva is a leader. And I'm not even touching on the defence. I mean, Rodri wasn't playing. So Man City are full of leaders. Liverpool are full of leaders. I look at Mo Salah, and he's probably Liverpool's best player, but he'll sprint back and help Trent Alexander-Arnold against Brighton. We can't get our wingers to do it in a Manchester derby. So it's mentality, it's leadership, it's pride. And we don't have players that have that. And Ten Hag has got to teach them or remove them. So I don't want to see people going, why is Maguire this? Why is Bruno that? I don't think it actually matters. I don't think I or you could walk in that Man United dressing room and go, Eric, you're wrong. Maguire, Heaton, De Gea, Bruno, sit down, stand up, Varane, Casemiro, Eriksen and Ronaldo. Because Ronaldo go, yeah, I want to leave, so I'm not leading this dressing room, I've had enough. Casemiro might go, yeah, I'm just settling in, I don't want that responsibility. Varane might go, I'm happy to lead on the pitch, but I'm not really vocal. And Eriksen might go, look, no, I don't want to do it either. So you just don't know. Maybe these are the players that are vocal because they're vocal. David May used to play for Manchester United when we won the treble. He's in every picture. He photobombs every picture. Like, you look at the picture and he's, in 100 years, when people look at the treble winning side, they'll see David May on the top of all the pictures and they'll go, was he like the Messi of the day? No, he was a backup centre-back. But obviously he's quite confident, quite vocal. Wasn't one of the best players we had, but we've all been in the dressing room with players who are probably on the bench who are very, very vocal. So just because you're the best player in the team doesn't mean you're going to be vocal. Sometimes one of the average players can be like that. But I would say don't take that article as something to spin into a negative about Ten Hag, all those players. We have to deal with what we are delivered week in, week out. And that team is crying out for a Mo Salah, a Jordan Henderson, a Kevin De Bruyne, a Phil Foden, an Erling Haaland, a Thiago Silva. We haven't got a leader. We haven't got one player that I go, he's a leader. And all our rivals have got 3 or 4, 5 or 6, 7 or 8. We haven't really got one. I think Ronaldo could do it, but obviously that's been sidestepped by the club. They don't want to do that, maybe because he doesn't want to be here. Varane, I think, is a very, very good player. He doesn't strike me as a vocal player. Casemiro, we haven't seen enough of him. I don't think Eriksen is either. Maybe this is an area that we need to look at. Erik Ten Hag is the best thing to have happened in the last 10 years. I hope the Glazers sell and we come out of this dark era, says Mahendra. And I think that people like Martinez have got the potential to step up. I think he's quite a vocal player from what I've seen. But look, I saw it. I thought it was an interesting point, and my instant reaction was that people would use this as a reason to be negative. I suppose technically it is a negative, but it's not a surprise. Like, I've got no issue with Tom Heaton standing up and being vocal in the dressing room. Fair play to the lad. I've got no issue with Bruno doing it. But I think the problem is that dressing room is so splintered and low in confidence and doesn't know how to win. The best thing United could do, and I've never really thought about this before, the best thing Manchester United could do for their next signing is go and buy a leader that can walk in that dressing room and take hold of it and say, look, I know how to do this. I know what I'm doing. I'm leading this dressing room. And it doesn't have to be somebody, it doesn't have to be a Jordan Henderson type or a Kimmich or it could be a Jude Bellingham. Jude Bellingham could walk in that room at 19, 20 and be a leader. They do need that sort of personality, that focal point. I mean, look, we've been blessed. People like Roy Keane, Nemanja Vidic, even a Gary Neville, someone like that. But we haven't got it, and we've known about this for ages. We've known about this for a very long time, and I'm a firm believer. I've played the game. You've played the game. You've watched the game. I just don't think if you've got a leader on the pitch, when you go 1-0 down to Man City, you capitulate to 6 goals, 4-0 at half time. I just don't think you do. I was so used to Roy Keane bollocking Gary Neville and other players on the pitch, absolutely tearing them a new one. You just don't see that in a United shirt. Everyone doesn't make eye contact when the goal goes in. Their heads drop and everything like that. I don't see anybody going, come on, lift it. It's a problem. But we've got to give Erik Ten Hag the time, because if I can see it and you can see it, I'm pretty sure he can see it. Nobody said Erik Ten Hag has made so many big signings. How didn't he get the backing? Spent more than 200 million. How much you want? $1 billion, says nobody. Well, I don't think you're a Man United fan, for one. And for two, you clearly don't understand how Manchester United is run. Erik Ten Hag made so many big signings. How he didn't get backed? The signing he wanted was Frankie de Jong. He didn't get him. Sit down straight away. I mean, I don't know why I'm feeding you as a troll, but if you don't understand how Manchester United is run and the problems that there are at Manchester United, don't stick your nose in like you're some Billy Big Bollocks saying that Ten Hag's been backed and Man United's a well-run club. It's not. and we're not even going to talk about it this morning because we spend so much time. Mark, what? Troy says, Mark, what makes you think there are no leaders? That's illogical. There are enough leaders. Ten Hag messed up making Maguire captain. That's on him. Okay, good, happy. Troy, what makes me think there's no leaders? We've been beaten by 4 or more goals 6 times in the last 12 months, probably more than that. I bet it's more than 6 actually. Off the top of my head, Leicester, Watford, Brighton, Liverpool, Brentford, City. There may well be another one. We've been humiliated so many times in the last 12 months, and you think we've got leaders? Where are they then? Were they playing hide and seek or just having a day off? We haven't got any leaders in that team, mate. They either don't want to do it or they can't do it. We haven't got proven leaders in that team. And don't disrespect leaders of the game by pretending that Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, David De Gea, Tom Heaton, don't pretend that they're leaders. You've got to have a fucking CV to be a leader. And I'm not having a go at those players individually, not at all. It's not their fault. They can't hold a torch to what a proper leader is. We don't have them. So we've either got to teach them or we've got to buy them. But we don't have them right now. People can say we need a striker, we need a right back, we need another midfielder. You're right. We do need specific positions. But we also need a leader. Ideally, we want 3 or 4. That is something that I don't hear people. I don't hear people talking about that enough. To be honest, I think it's there's one for Gary Neville and Jamie Carragher. The lack of leaders in that Manchester United team, and I think it translates into a lack of effort as well. I look at Manchester City when teams are attacking them, and the work rate of someone like a Gundogan or a De Bruyne or a Bernardo Silva or a Phil Foden or a Jack Grealish, they work really hard. They're not hanging around on the halfway line going, I wonder if we'll get the ball in a minute, which is basically what Sancho and Anthony did at the weekend. They work hard. We're massively missing. We've got a manager, but once you go onto the pitch, you need a leader on the pitch to give people a kick up the arse. And we've been missing that for a long time. And it's a disadvantage when you go onto the pitch and you play Brighton, Brentford, Man City. Forget the talent. If you haven't got the work rate and the coordination and the leadership, you will get beat like we did in all 3 of those games. We've got better players on paper than Brentford and Brighton. Why did they beat us? Because they're leaders. They believe in each other. They're working together. They're working hard. Leadership isn't just putting the captain on captain's armband and doing a Braveheart speech or Russell Crowe from Gladiator. It's actually making the team work hard. Constantly getting on at them, organising them. That's what it is. Mark, what are you talking about? The players were pumped. Ten Hag, Troy, I'm sorry, you're a troll. Troy the troll. Mark, why do we consistently look for leaders? These players are paid well and should motivate themselves. Quality is what we need moving forward, says Danish. No, you're wrong, Danish. I don't know what your background is in relation to work ethic, but I've worked in lots of different jobs. I've worked in office environments. I've worked in, labour jobs and all sorts of that. I don't vote, not saying vote Labour, manual labour, all sorts. You will get, if you get 5 people together working on a team, whether it's in an office or out, building a house or anything like that, you might get 2 people who are really hard workers but need direction. You might get 2 people who are lazy and will try and get away with it but will work when you tell them to. And you might get 1, if you're really lucky, who works off their own initiative, works hard and is tirelessly trying to improve themselves every day. Everybody is different. Bring that back to football. The majority of the Man City and Liverpool team are innovative, hard-working people who demand the best every day, and if they don't achieve that, they're disappointed. So Man City, Klopp and Pep have recruited players who are innovators, who work hard and demand the best of themselves and everyone around them every single day. They have recruited the right type of player. Manchester United, we don't have one player who is an innovator, who works hard tirelessly and demands the very best of themselves and everyone around them every single day. One name comes to mind, Cristiano Ronaldo, but I feel the club have messed that up. So we don't have the 3 things that Liverpool and Man City have got in abundance in their squad. You can't teach it. Because what if Man United players have got players who need to be told what to do, and when things go wrong, they can't think for themselves, so they're not innovators? What if Man United players have got players who are very talented but don't want to work hard? What if Manchester United players, Man United have got players who can play very well but don't really demand it of themselves or everyone around them on a consistent basis? We need leaders. That's what we need, not sheep. We need leaders. And I think that it's very, very clear that the makeup of that squad has been wrong for years. So to expect Ten Hag to turn that around in 3 or 4 months, I think he's still learning. And look, I look at someone like Bruno Fernandes and I go, he is a creative. He does run around a lot, and he has at times demanded high standards. I think he's become drowned by the toxicity at Man United, and he's become quite average as a player. But there is potential in someone like Bruno Fernandes to become better. So my hope is that we either clear these players out or Ten Hag develops them into the players they need to be. Dave says, like Milner bollocking Van Dijk against us. Exactly, yeah. Why am I seeing deja vu here with managers? Ten Hag also will be thrown under the bus by sticking with bad players instead of good players, says Jay. I don't know. I think it's early days for Ten Hag. I really do. I think there's a lot to be positive about, but there's also a lot to be realistic about. If anything, we're defending Ten Hag by saying, you can't polish a turd. We need leaders. Has he got any? He might have some in the future, but at the moment, I think we've just been beaten 6-3 by Man City. If anyone thinks we've got a leader, they're blind. They're blind. They really are. Interesting thing was that out of one of those leaders was David De Gea. Now, I don't know whether anybody saw this. Lightning Football says we need Maguire. Yeah, but we've had that. Interesting coming in from here. Santosh, the press conference is coming in at 11:30. Man United are training right now. Laurie Whitwell is saying that Van der Beek and Aaron Wan-Bissaka aren't there in training. So Donny Van der Beek out of the game for the weekend, which is disappointing. He's out completely of the game on Thursday night. Harry Maguire, Rafael Varane, Donny van der Beek and Aaron Wan-Bissaka are not in training this morning. So none of those players will be involved tomorrow night. It's really disappointing about Donny van der Beek. I've just retweeted it off my Twitter account. So no Maguire, no Varane, no Donny van der Beek, and no Aaron Wan-Bissaka. Maguire and Varane, it was probably always going to be a little bit too soon, wasn't it? But, Donny van der Beek. So what are we going to do tomorrow? Play Fred as a cam again? I'd play Pellistri. Give Pellistri some bloody game time. But, I fear that we are... I don't want to repeat myself, but I feel we're moving towards the end game with Donny van der Beek now. If he's not fit... He was hardly fit for Everton from January to the end of last season. He's hardly been fit from the start of the season to now. He wasn't in the first team anyway. The World Cup break is 5 weeks away, and the team played bad at the weekends. By the time Donny gets fit, we'll probably have sorted it out again, and then he won't get in the team. So I just think it's coming towards an end. I'd play Sancho as a cam. I think you're making some good points this morning. I think Sancho as a centre attacking midfielder might not be a bad idea. Might not be. But look, I don't know whether anybody heard this. Gary Neville was saying at the weekend that he highlighted David De Gea and said that he thinks that his career at Manchester United is going to be short-lived under Ten Hag. And he highlighted many of the things that we've spoken about on here, that Ten Hag ultimately will want to play with a goalkeeper like Ederson, who takes risks on the ball and plays out from the back, and that therefore David De Gea will not be suitable for that. So Gary Neville, going for, some might say, the easy option of, targeting David De Gea. I found it quite interesting that sort of came out after the Manchester derby, when David De Gea had nothing to do with that loss. I also think it's always interesting that it's always the foreign player that gets highlighted, when you could easily say Harry Maguire's not going to suit the way that Ten Hag wants to play. Luke Shaw may not suit the way Ten Hag wants to play. Scott McTominay will not suit the way Ten Hag wants to play. In the case of McTominay, he averages 30 passes per game. Rodri's averaging about 90. Gundogan, De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva around 70. how does McTominay suit a possession-based system when he doesn't get on the ball? So you could easily say the same. But I'm not gonna lie. I do think that whilst it's a tired argument, a tired conversation, I think in the long term, David De Gea does have to become a player that is better with the ball at his feet, or he will be moved aside. But I don't know why it becomes such a topic point so regularly when really it's down the road. A ball-playing goalkeeper isn't going to change what happened at the weekend, and it's not going to change what happened against Brentford, apart from the fact that De Gea made a couple of mistakes in that game. It might have been 2-0 instead of 4, but the reason that Erik ten Hag has gone to being quite a deep counter-attacking team is because he's absolutely terrified of what happened on Sunday when we open up a little bit. We'll get slaughtered. Like most teams in the Premier League can beat us if we open up. We went to Leicester and Southampton and played counter-attacking football. So to get results at the moment, and look, I was very happy with the 4 Premier League wins in a row, but I know what they were built upon. They were built on a deep-lying defence and counter-attacking football. So I think ball-playing goalkeeper's great, and we do need one, but it's certainly not one that if we had one on Saturday, it's going to make us beat Sunday, it's going to make us beat Everton, or last Sunday make us beat Man City. There are so many things we need to talk about in that team. I mean, we need to become a possession-based team before we get a possession-based goalkeeper. Ronaldo would have been a great leader if it was from the start. Very easy and obvious option, but never did happen at the right time, says Nittil. And morning, Mark, says Mikael Rach. Morning to Nittil. So, yeah, why Erik ten Hag don't want to use Ronaldo's leadership, says Krishna. I think that the ship has sailed on Ronaldo being captain. It should have happened as soon as ten Hag came into the club. The minute he went with Maguire and the minute Ronaldo said he wanted to go was when you can't really use Ronaldo anymore as the captain because you don't know how long he's going to be here. So, yeah, I think Ronaldo as captain is that ship has sailed, really. But, you know, going back to that other point, I mean, if you're in a dressing room at Manchester United and you've got Tom Heaton speaking to you, doesn't even play, Harry Maguire doesn't even play, all right, David De Gea and Bruno, at least they're in the first team. I think it's weird how you can have dressing room leaders and they don't even get in the first team. Because if you're not getting... And it can work. I think, you know, Ryan Giggs didn't used to start every game for Man United, but if he was a dressing room leader towards the end of his career and he's on the bench, it doesn't matter whether you're Wayne Rooney, Robin Van Persie, David De Gea, and you're in the first team and Ryan Giggs isn't. You're going to listen to him because he's won multiple Premier League titles, Champions Leagues. He's one of the greatest players Man United ever had. He might be on the bench, but when he talks, you listen. So you don't have to be in the starting 11 to be a dressing room leader. But with all due respect to people like Heaton and Maguire, they're not in the team at the moment. And if they're vocally talking to you before a game, you may as well get me in or you in. Doesn't mean you can't be a good motivator, but you're not in the team and you don't have a CV to sort of tell anyone in the team what to do. It's not Maguire's fault, it's not Heaton's fault, it's not Bruno's fault, it's not David De Gea's fault. But at the moment, if I was sat in that Man United dressing room, there's probably only 2 or 3 people that I would listen to if they stood up and spoke. And that would be Varane, Casemiro and Ronaldo because of the CV they've got. I'd love to listen to a Martinez who just went absolutely crazy and went mad and inspired you. But I don't know whether he is that person yet. And that's where we need to get to. It's not a negative to say we've got no leaders in that dressing room because we don't. It's Ten Hag's job to get leaders in the dressing room. Mark, we know under this ownership we're not going to get top most honours. Do you feel like under Warm looking at our top 6 who got better vision and plan? Says Jay. I think in relation to... I was doing the watch-along last night for Liverpool Rangers and somebody said, do you think United will get top 6? Do you think United will get top 6? Let's have a quick snap poll here. Do you think United get top 4? Sorry, not top 4, not top 6. Do you think United are going to get top 4? And I think it's always a good question because you can keep asking it every week almost because everything changes. I can't do a chart show on Saturday, by the way. I can't do a chart show. Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Donny are out. We spoke about it, Ayuk. I can't do a chart show on Saturday because we were so shit on... I might be able to do one based on tomorrow night. But do I think we're going to get top 4? Well, at the moment, Man City have got one of those spots, 100%. I'd say Arsenal are going to get another one because they've got a good team. And I don't think they'll win the league, but I think they've got a good enough team to get top 4. So that's 2 of the spots. I think Liverpool are going to come back. So I think that's 3 of the spots, which leaves us, Chelsea, Spurs for spot 4. So as a percentage, our chance of getting top 4 is probably around 30%. And that's if you think we've got as good a chance as Chelsea and Spurs. So I think it's us, Chelsea and Spurs for 4th place. And considering what Chelsea are about to do, and Jay says we'll easily get it, considering what Chelsea are about to do, I mean, Chelsea, I tweeted it this morning, Chelsea are the project to watch over the next 18 months. I know for a fact they've got the money to go and buy whatever Potter wants. If Potter's a good coach and they're giving the players that he wants, Chelsea's trajectory is up. So they're one to watch. Spurs, I'm not convinced about Spurs. I think Conte is displaying Mourinho mannerisms in relation to Emerson Royale is shit and he picked him again last night. So maybe Conte is going to self-implode at Spurs. Maybe that's an opportunity. So I would put Man United's chances of getting top 4 30% because it's us, Chelsea or Spurs for top 4. So it's not impossible. I would lean towards probably no, but it's not impossible. I'd prefer Ronaldo to leave in January or benched all season, says Mark. Well, we can't bench him all season, so we'd have to let him go in January. Will United get top 4? Yes, says 45%, and no, says 55%. There you go. So it is close. It is close. I would agree on that. I wanted to just mention this. There's been a few stories coming out about how Anthony basically disobeyed Ten Hag orders at the weekend. A few people have mentioned it to me. I don't really know the source of it, but I bring it up because it's probably true. Not in relation to the source, but there is absolutely no way that Anthony did what he was supposed to do on Sunday. But neither did Rashford and neither did Sancho. So I don't think you can individualise this. And I don't want to individualise the Manchester derby. I said it straight after the game in my match reaction. I don't want to individualise this. We can talk about players who played badly, but there was many of them. But it is quite interesting because my interpretation of Ajax, and I'm not an Ajax season ticket holder, was that under Ten Hag, they worked really hard as a team. It was about the press, it was about possession, it was about working hard. Well, Anthony would know that. So I found it really interesting at the weekend that there was no support for Dalot and Malacia, who both picked up early yellow cards. Sancho and Anthony should have been holding hands with them. They should have been really helping them, and they didn't do it. I can't believe for 1 minute that Ten Hag told them to just stay away and not help out. So I don't know what that's all about. I don't know what that's all about. But the front three really caused major problems for us on Sunday, and they didn't work hard enough. They didn't help their team out enough. They didn't drop back enough. We created next to nothing. So you can't just hang around up front waiting for opportunities. You've got to keep that scoreline down, and I didn't see enough work from them. So I think to say that they disobeyed Ten Hag's orders is a bit strong, although technically it might be right. But they cannot have a repeat of that again, whether it's Rashford, Sancho or Anthony. They've got to work hard. And I always think the best examples are people like Mo Salah and Mane and Diaz now at Liverpool as well. And there's plenty of others at other clubs. The modern winger cannot be a luxury who just waits for the ball and runs at people, and then when they loses it just stands and waits again. You've got to work hard. You've got to help your fullback. And by helping your fullback, you'll get the ball back quicker and you'll get more of the ball. It's about energy. It's about fitness. If I'm playing right winger against Manchester City at the weekend, like David Beckham used to do with Gary Neville, when Man City have got the ball, I'm dropping, I'm helping my fullback. I'm making it hard for Grealish and Cancelo to double up on Dalot. I'm making it hard for Grealish to get one-on-one against Dalot. I'm working really hard to help him, right? Because Man City have got the ball. By helping him, we've got a better chance of winning the ball back, which means I'm going to get more of the ball. Yes, I've got to be fit and I've got to be energetic, but I expect that as standard in the Premier League. These wingers at Manchester United have got to be modern wingers. They've got to work hard. You've got to help your fullback. And by helping your fullback, you'll win the ball back more and therefore you'll get the ball. The single line is working hard. Why do these players not want to work hard? Why does De Bruyne want to work hard for Man City? Why does Salah want to work hard for Liverpool? Why do these players who have already got the luxury of playing for the best teams in the world, why do they always want to work hard as well? It's the same reason David Beckham and Ryan Giggs worked hard, Roy Keane and Dwight York and Andy Cole and Teddy Sheringham and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Robin van Persie and Wayne Rooney and all the greats of United. No matter how good their talent is, they were all leaders and they all worked hard. We need to work hard. Why don't Rashford, Sancho and Anthony fancy it on the weekend in a Manchester derby? Why don't they realise that if they work hard, they'll get the ball more? Why don't they want to work hard? That's the question that Ten Hag needs to be asking those players from the weekend. Because again, it goes back to leadership, determination and desire. And that's got to change. And we knew that. Mark, the stats clearly showed the players are working much harder, show up very fast. Mark, we won the previous 4 on this one. Ten Hag cost us, no subs. Man U winners. Well, you know, we're all entitled to our opinion, mate, but I watched the game at the weekend. So if you think we worked hard on Sunday, then God, I'd love to come and work for you because it's easy streets. I'm spending all the day on the internet. Man U winners. Yeah, I'll have that report for you sometime in the next 5 years. United will be... Benito says Maguire's a leader. Stop trying to cause people to give Maguire shit, mate. United will be kicked to get top. Yeah, Leo, you need to write better. Isn't Ronaldo working hard and he's on the bench? They get paid too much, says Tommy. Yeah, well, look, we always end up coming back to the start. The problem at Manchester United is there is a cultural issue. If I'm the CEO of United or you're the owner of United, then that football club's going to change. Unfortunately, it's a bit of a holiday camp. Oh, can you do as a social? Oh, it's amazing how many followers you've got. Can you do this for our socials? We're all in it together. The brand wants this, the brand wants that. We treat our players like rock stars. Pep Guardiola treats his players like, if you don't work for me, you're out. Same with Klopp. I wonder why we don't work hard. It's a holiday camp at Man United, and Ten Hag's trying to change it. Pep Guardiola, if you're Phil Foden at Man City, doesn't matter how many Twitter followers you've got, doesn't matter how popular you are on Instagram, if you don't play well, you don't play. And you will be sold. You will just be somebody that had potential that blew it. And Pep will easily get rid of you and bring someone else in. That's what happens at Man City. At Man United, you come in with your Twitter followers and your Instagram, and you know, you've got your brand deals with Pepsi and whoever. And if you don't perform, it's all right. We've invested in you. We'll stick with you. There's no get out the team. There's no we're going to sell you. It's we'll stick by you. And anyone who thinks that's not true, how many players have we still got at this football club that are failures that we won't get rid of? Loads. So, yeah, players need to work hard. Yes, Ten Hag needs to improve this squad. But don't ever forget it's to do with the CEO. It's to do with the Glazers. It's to do with the structure in that football club. There is no winning mentality because we are not a football club. There are no leaders because we are not a football club. There is no hard work, determination, perseverance because we are not a football club. We are a brand. And ultimately, the things we're thinking about is kit launchers, sponsor deals, these players sharing it in their socials. They're popular with the youth. You know, those things take over the fact of what Pep Guardiola is all about. Pep Guardiola is all about, I don't care who you are, if you don't perform, you're out. And we need to get to that. We need to get to that. When you play counter-attacking football with Rashford, this is what happens. Major reset must take place, says Meal. I don't know where the mods are today. We need to get some more mods, don't we? Because there's a twat in the chat. We'll sort out more mods. Apologies about that. This might seem contrarian. I believe that we can win the league. Sounds mad, Mark. Please remember the message. We have the players, can see us winning the league. Yeah, you're a troll as well. Right, we'll end the show because we've got Erik Ten Hag's press conference coming up at 11:30. It's amazing that people will expose themselves as idiots in front of 7,000 people. I thought I was the only one. Thanks everyone for watching. We're back at just after 11:30. It's a press conference reaction for Erik Ten Hag. I think it's going to be a very interesting press conference because the game tomorrow night, look, you know, whatever, but he needs to be asked questions about the weekend, and I think we're going to get some interesting responses. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. I'll see you in a couple of hours' time. Thanks for watching. We're back for the press conference reaction in a bit.